Alright, hello everyone. Basically, some guy pretty known in the scene, the Golden One, released some video. And yes, it's going to be in English because he's English, and I also kind of want just a general argument to be had here. He released the whole I was wrong, I am sorry. I'm going in pretty blind, but I can kind of guess what he's going to say already. So yeah, just like it's an extremely long video, so the rant will be extremely long too, probably.
Alright, the time has finally come for me to admit my great shame, my greatest regret. Now, of course, I've come a long way during these 10 years, but even so, I have swallowed my ego. Usually I joke about being humble, but I'm actually quite humble in saying that it's a bit hard to look at your life's work and see that you have missed the fundamental thing. So
This guy, Golden One, is always what's it called? I don't know the English word, but capable of seeing your own wrongs when it matters. So like in general, this whole rant that I will do against his rant is going to be pretty respectful. The guy's great. Don't forget that the guy's great.
I'll get into it in yeah, we'll get into it. I'll get straight into it so you know what I'm talking about. So I have been at it for 10 years. I don't regret anything I've said or done. Perhaps a few minor positions I've changed my mind on, but nothing major, and I'm very happy and proud of everything I've done. Now, what the great regret I have, what I'm a bit ashamed of, is that I missed the absolutely most important thing, and that is I will explain at length, but to just summarize it quickly, the main thing I should have said. Of course, hard for me to know 10 years ago. I've grown a bit over this decade for sure, but maybe I should have known. It is what it is. What I should have said, simply put, is what I should have done, what I should have said, what I should have emphasized from the beginning was to get our guys into institutions of power, positions of power, political parties.
Yes, and I don't understand why conservatives and right wingers always said don't get into institutions. Now, it depends on which institution. For example, I don't think it's good for white men to go into the military, generally speaking, unless they take a theoretical position and and just do a lot of work and keep most work secret and then don't release it. But like that's a very esoteric take, maybe, I don't know. Doesn't really matter. But in general, like all political power um, has to be seized. This is logical, but for some reason, some libertarian-esque American scenery kind of thing occurred in the past, for people who don't know, where young men like me, on their 15th birthday, were told by those people that we have to not go to university. And yeah, that's fucking stupid.
Again, I don't regret any of the good advice I've given. If I want to praise myself, I can say, yeah, I get messages all the time from guys saying how I've bettered their lives in
You have.
all kinds of ways. And of course, I'm very happy and proud of the part I've taken in pushing the metapolitical open window, resculpting the metapolitical landscape. Especially here in Sweden, we've had, 10 years ago, if you said that you might even hint that there might be an issue with mass immigration from the third world, you were seen as a demon. Now you can say it in a polite conversation. You can say that, I believe remigration is the correct path forward. It's not even
Yes, and then, like again, this is purely about organizing this whole rant for him and for me both.
controversial anymore. You can say that you vote for the Sweden Democrats, and
We're just gonna skip.
I'm very proud at an earlier time, especially when I shone the brightest, maybe in 2018, I would have really pushed this when I could reach out to the most young guys. I would have said, I'd go into political parties, work your way up, instead of focusing only on, gym, MMA, reading, finding a good woman. Again, this is
Yeah, basically, but the thing is, I actually did this to some extent. Um, and there is some problems with it. Well, firstly, like you are not going to work your way into a party per se, but you can make yourself, at least in the past, right, like 2015, 2016, 2017. Nowadays, we have something called far right parties, aka nationalist parties, somewhat nationalist parties, sometimes libertarian. Um, think of Confederatia, etc. AFD used to have libertarian factions. It seems to have mostly gone away. But that itself was a conquest process, and an annoying one because nationalists were not active enough. Not just like leading people. I'm talking about like the Onderbahn, the Onderbahn, let me think. Like, the supporters, as it were, weren't active enough in the parties for a very long time. And the most important thing is that nationalists become members of parties and start demanding aggressively a nationalist line. And in regards to the MMA types, I have my life long seen so many of those fit guys do anything but organize in any capacity. A lot of people actually died in Ukraine, for example, because they believed that they had to be steeled in that time and experience a war or something, and the reality is like, no, you just have to be politically active in I mean, again, the war in Ukraine is politically active in a manner, but it's like for whom, right? Like for neoliberalism. And then they tell you, oh, we'll overthrow the neoliberals in Zelensky. No, you won't. You would have already done so if you wanted to. Come on, man. It's bullshit. And now I've lost all sorts of like skinhead friends, etc. there. And this is in general. Skinheads are not, for some reason, are not being politically active in any capacity, right? It's just an unwillingness to organize from everyone. Everybody wants to be the fit, tough soldier that answers the call for battle when it comes. But the problem here that we have is in all politics is that the call for battle has already sounded to some extent, and also not. And at the same time, you are part of the call to battle, and you refuse to make the call. And I think he'll go about this a bit more, so I'll keep the whole take for now.
That's all good advice. I don't regret myself in the least. You should train MMA, you should find a good wife, you should have children, you should read all of these things.
Yeah, and then you're going to have to get politically active.
Extremely much that I missed the most fundamental aspect of saving European civilization. Now, of course, back 10 years ago, when I was a sensitive young man of 25, yeah, of course, I had a different perspective on things. Now I am a venerable ancient, 35 years, I have 2 children, and I feel the...
And I'm almost 25, and I grew up with people like you, and I have both appreciation and extreme criticism, and it's especially on the point which, again, I am so appreciative that people like this are coming forth, kind of indeed, he is a mentor, he is an elder for a lot of people, that they admitted to a mistake. Again, the appreciation he has is still the core, but I have to be a bit critical of him to underline this point.
The clock is ticking. The time has come to take things a bit more seriously, and this is the correct analysis to go in, to engage in society. You might have heard otherwise good guys, and I know guys I respect greatly myself, they say the solution isn't political, and yeah, believe you.
No, all solutions are political. Every single solution is political. All violence is political. Politics is violence downstreamed into a system by a large extent, a moral system, and also a system of law, and also a system of this. Politics is violence applied to the system, often of an authority, imperium, whatever you want to call it, to whom you are, whether you like it or not, beholden or subject to, as it were. Some people do politics within the system because they like it, and other people do it because, as we are, do it because we are not yet capable of open partisanship, or at least not fully capable. Sometimes we are capable.
View me, I wish that were true. I wish the struggle was cultural or spiritual or anything like that, but it...
Yeah, no, it isn't. Like all the Christians that say, like, just go be a monk and save your soul. I respect that a lot. I really do. I respect these extreme Christian types a lot more than most people probably do in this movement. I just know that, like, they don't believe in an earth that matters, etc., and just save your soul, which I respect. But then but that's an individualist and therefore somewhat liberal even take. I do not believe in the individual. Morality is not an individual thing. You do not save yourself. And everybody has to be saved, and at the same time you have responsibility for everyone, etc. You cannot shake off responsibility. That's my belief, at least. And that's probably what most nationalists believe inherently, though they probably don't know how to say it in words.
It is not. The struggle is very much political, and you can fantasize about, you know, as I do every once in a while, I'm going to move to a nice villa in the countryside, I'm going to sit in the sun, sipping coffee, reading poetry, writing poetry, but yeah.
I used to have those dreams too, about 6 years ago. I stopped having them. And since then I have only dreamed of dying, to be fair. Like just dying for my cause. I just don't care anymore. Probably sounds very nihilistic, but I'm just I'm so tired.
Guess what? It's a dream. It's an escapist fantasy, because ultimately,
Yeah,
as long as our
it's
enemies are
escapism.
in these positions of power, they can just
It's not just escapism though. It's most people have to eventually grasp that if you are truly revolutionary and partisan for a political cause which you believe to be moral, then you have to die. Because you are going to go against the force which is stronger. Therefore, you have to be more willing to die than that force. Because if you are not willing, then you will always end up surrendering. Sorry, it's just hard. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like we have. What I really don't understand is that we're just not being honest to ourselves always about this. Like we're going to die. You're gonna die anyway, right? So, but you're going to die for your political thing now. That's the difference, right? Between either way, you're gonna die anyway in life. But like, we get to choose to some extent why and what for.
send police to my house and arrest me because I've said something they don't agree with. So you can't escape. Same thing if you're fantasizing.
Not only can you not escape from the totalitarian system if you have a partisan ideology, unless you just check out, but you can't check out because you now have a moral system, therefore you can't. So you can check out. The reason you can't escape is because you are the target, right? Like you are the target. When it's just the old-fashioned of like, not only are they going to go after you with police, but even if they are not, they are going to, like, even if you do everything they say, they just, the goal of the system is to remove you. Eventually. So staying quiet the longest doesn't result in a positive outcome. And at the end you will die. Therefore, again, you choose your death. You can choose death by resistance or compliance. That's the choice. It's not any difference here. Only time is the difference, and time is itself just the movement of matter. So you can question, not to get too schizo and esoteric, but you can question if there is even time between two things. But yeah.
About making enough money so you don't need to engage with society at all. It's a fantasy. They will come for you. It doesn't matter how much
money only matters. Money only matters if you give it to politics. Otherwise, it's all money on the bank account is fake. It's not real until it's used, and it's not. You don't contribute anything unless you are funding political power in any form. It doesn't matter what.
Bolshevik revolution, it didn't go particularly well for the guys with money. You will be first in line. They will come for you. There is no escape. The only escape is to go through, to engage in the fight for these positions of power. They, the current regimes of the West, they've pushed you into a position where the only thing you can do is to fight. And with fight, I don't mean, brawling in the street. I don't mean any physical fight. This.
Agreed. Like, I hate this about, again, the skinheads whom... Like, firstly, they always say, like, we're gonna fight when the street battle happens. The street battle already is happening, has happened before. And at the same time, it's also not the most important thing. Firstly, just the most important thing is being capable of organizing even the most basic bitch of offense, which skinheads should be part of and refute. And I use skinheads just for tough guy, MMA guy, etc. Just this entire group. I know it's not perfect, but whatever. Metalheads, etc. Just everybody in white nationalism on the masculine, pretentious masculinity. I would call it somewhat pretentious. Frankly, I'm so tired of those people sometimes. On that sphere, shall we say, the whole tough guy sphere. Those people are fucking useless and effeminate and emotional when it comes to politically organizing. They are the first to complain, the laziest, the most useless. They think that they are all leaders. They never understand that, like yeah, sure, somebody's a leader, but even a leader is just a guy who gives orders at best and stuff. He's in the fight with you just as much. So this whole conception is wrong to begin with. And all leadership conception of like the autocrat by reactionaries is bad to begin with. But anyway, I've spoken about that personally a lot anyway. That doesn't matter right now. But there is a political fight. I don't entirely agree. Like, I disagree. Like, England had a political fight recently. And what we had was a bunch of hooligan-like people who were so unorganized that they did petty crime out of rage. And it's just pathetic and stupid. Now, it was funny, sure, but Just a bit more organization would have saved a lot of people there. Masking up. Maybe not randomly looting because you are mad and you are too stupid to think about political action critically. There's just a leadership problem there, and like those weren't even skinheads, those were just normie, plebeian, mad normies, who were at best voters reform, I guess, maybe, probably not even. But there is political violence all the time. Like that's funny. I was the one who was always like against political violence, and now I'm against my mentors saying don't fight in the street. No, there already is fighting in the street. It's just that there's no point in aggressively fighting the street. But at the same time, where are my MMA guys doing sticker runs and banner drops overnight? Like, there's 150 people that'll go to a metal concert, but if I ask all those 150 people that like to go, like, be tough, etc., listen to some Stoomwear or whatever, to do the night banner drop to scare some shitlibs in a certain town filled with like green left voters or something. They won't do it. But that battle on the street is legal, is normal, is fair, is good action, is anonymous, is intelligent. And for that you do need tough guys. I can't have women do that because they're women. I'm not putting women at risk, but the thing is, women volunteer for this. This action that I just described, that women volunteer for this often, more often than these guys. So there's something wrong with these tough guys, mentally, that makes them politically castrated, sterile, and stupid, and dysfunctional, and just a negative to the movement in general. But there is political violence, and it's called just legal action. And we have seen many attacks against people who do fair legal action. Women who, for example, do just sticker drops getting attacked. Where is my tough guy on the internet guy to protect that woman who wanted to do something real activism for white children, White Lives Matters, etc. Just all these organizations, right? I know them all. Where is my fucking tough guy? So the political organization there is a battle in the street, and we need it politically organized. It's just not a battle in the streets in regards to like the Battle of Berlin, where we have to brawl out with communists. No. But it is a battle in the street of, can we go out every day to do our activism without fear, and most importantly having our more vulnerable groups of people. Sometimes they are women, sometimes they are just intellectuals in general. Because, you know, I know a lot of ex-Marxists, and these guys are fucking smart, and they are the best guys I have. But they're also fucking weak. Because they are ex-Marxists, etc. You know how those types, those nerds. But those are good people. Guess what they need? They need a band of brothers behind them. These metalheads, these skinheads, these hooligans that protect them and stand for them. But they don't have that. Why? Because, well, the MMA guy doesn't care about intellectualism, etc. That's cringe, that's bad or something. This is the actual obstacle in Europe right now, at least, in my opinion, is get the tough guys to maybe accept that they have to submit to some organization and some intellectual authority, and that they are not individuals, and that they have a responsibility to care and protect others. There is a soldierly battle in the streets every day, actually, in Europe. There is a sort of Battle of Berlin, but it's not like what we think. It's the capacity to protect people in the movement itself, efficiently, constantly.
Battle in front of us. It's not violent at all.
It is violent.
If you talk about violence, if you fantasize
just not. There is no specific street being attacked, but there is protesters being attacked. There is events where we would like more security. So that all those young guys who are just training every day, but then don't show up at an event, like you are the problem. Actually, I need you. Literally, I need you.
Or a revolution, or street battles, it's also an escapist fantasy, because then you can say to yourself, you know what, when the civil war kicks off, then I'm gonna be so tough and brave and everything like that. I'm gonna be so committed. And
yeah, no, he's right here. Like, this is the thing. Like, oh, when the civil war starts. Now, the civil war starts when the system is getting outflanked so immensely in political organization that it preemptively starts attacking those people in hopes of suppressing it. It's like the wounded tiger clawing out. That's what a civil war, political civil war, is, when one side is a wounded tiger clawing out. Sometimes it's preemptively started by the aggressor side, because it's very confident, or it's not confident in the long term, either way. But most of the time it's the old regime, the ancien regime, clawing out. So there is going to be a call somewhat, but that call only happens once the political maneuvers have been done. So you have to already be part of a stable, strong organization at that point. And that can only happen when, again, those strong young boys follow a leader and a intellectual vanguard of a sort.
I don't doubt your tough.
And Azov isn't that vanguard. Azov died in the steel factory. For nothing. For neoliberalism. Let's not forget that. All my favorite people and artists in Ukraine died. It's not funny, I'm laughing, it's not funny, it's fucking tragic.
Toughness. I don't doubt the toughness of my white brothers in the least. I know your fortitude because I know our ancestors, but I doubt your insight here. I doubt your commitment to something serious. If you fantasize about it, if you talk about it, it's an escapist fantasy. And if you talk about violence, yeah, the security service, they will have an easy target in you. They will just come and pick you up, and they want you to be violent because then you will give.
They want you to be stupid violent, but again, I maintain the core that all politics is violence inherently, of course. Like we have to stop cocking on this. The system knows this. Even the most dumb public member kind of knows this, understands this inherently. The left certainly knows this. Everybody knows this, but just afraid of talking about it. And like, I'm not saying start attacking people. Of course, that is fucking, again, because that's dumb. But I am saying, well, it's legal in most countries in Europe, I think, to protest outside of the house of somebody who writes some anti-white column on a large paper. I believe it's fair to just protest on the public road in front of somebody's house. But doing so is risky, and most people stop. When I call them up for such an action, they would stop because they feel it's risky. Why do they feel it's risky? Well, again, there's often older men, women, some young intellectuals, some very young guys sometimes actually, a 16-year-old. Well, guess what? The 16-year-old also needs to be protected. He's just a young guy, as was I once. And where is this core of like militant men that are ready to protect this crowd of people who are politically active, more active than them, again, who want to organize a protest somewhere for whatever purpose? It doesn't matter. The example doesn't matter.
Them a clear target. What they don't want you to do is to go in to all of these parties, to keep your cool, to keep your guard up, to keep your discipline. They don't want you to do it because that makes them afraid. You can look at these violent riots in England, and again, I am as angry as...
Which was stupid because they lacked all forms of intellectual support in the organization. Had they had competent leaders in their community, they would have probably masked up, they wouldn't have looted some place.
Yes,
they wouldn't have gone after Muslims who weren't even responsible for the whole thing, because, again, why go after the mosque? It's fucking dumb. Again, the real problem here was that it wasn't the fiery element of the protest, it's all the stupid things. All the organizational mistakes, which is due to a lack of intellectual understanding of how to do political protests, which is an intellectual subject actually. Understanding that law in specific countries, knowing what you can and can't do, is intellectualism. That's the intellectual subject. The skinhead doesn't understand it, which is why he needs to be ordered around. Hooligans to everybody.
An Englishman. When I look at these young English guys or English girls, I see they look like me, they act like me, they are of the same blood as I am. Of course I get angry. It's just the difference is I don't encourage anyone going out on the street to throw a rock at a police and you will feel cool with yourself. You will have ventilated some anger. The police, yeah, of course, they might not find it so fun to get a rock in their head, but the politicians, they will just laugh at you because there's no threat there. They aren't afraid. It's like a child throwing a tantrum. And
mild disagreement. We do kind of underestimate the police power in regards to the street power. Often. I'm not going to talk too much about this. This is a larger subject. I just don't really agree that inherently the fiery nature of a protest is always bad, shall we say. Always. It really is dependent on the case.
And you will be put in prison. There's absolutely no reason to do this. If you're serious about change, if you're serious about wanting to escape from this nightmare, if you're serious about wanting to...
Well, let's analyze what you just said. If you're serious, then you can go to prison. Well, kind of yes, kind of no. You can't go to prison over nothing. At the same time, we're all going to go to prison eventually. Again, we are going to die already. we are also going to be imprisoned already. It's just a matter of over what bridge, and is the action worth the value? And the answer is sometimes yes, sometimes no. We have to start being more nuanced. We have to have the nuance on this. Because the reality is, if somebody does something really great, really active, and gets imprisoned for doing the right thing and self-defense maybe against some aggressive cop, which does happen, by the way. Cops are fucking aggressive. Often. Then they are not inherently, like sometimes this martyrdom can be good. Sometimes. Again, I am not a fan of martyrdom for no reason.
Create a society where you're not afraid of, will it be your grandmother who's next, who's going to be stabbed by the diversity? Will it be your daughter that is harassed by diversity? I want to create a society where I don't need to escort my daughters everywhere, but I don't need to escort my wife everywhere. We had this in Sweden up until 20 years ago, and then the Multicultural Health Project started, and yeah, it's a different society. It's a different society. Sweden is a completely different country from when I grew up. I'm born in '89. By your worldview, your ideology, and by the way, we need to get rid of ideology. I don't care about your ideology. I couldn't care less about what you think of capitalism or socialism or taxation or personal liberties. The only thing that matters is to recognize that politics is a game of power, and the only thing that matters is to get our guys loyal to order, reason, European civilization, to get these guys into positions of power. And this is also something that...
Perfect. Like, good. Yes. 100%.
Again, I'm a bit ashamed since I missed this. We can win 100% in the metapolitical arena, which we are, by the way. We're winning big time. You can just look at X now, see how...
But why are we winning? Like, I don't want to make this now long, but like, understand the reasons why we have been winning. It's because we have been, for example, destroying the mythology. Empires mostly live with their mythology. And we have destroyed the old one. To put it very shortly, and there's more going on. But still, this is one of the most important things, and this was a organized intellectual work by our movement, which has been spreading for over decades now, but like the last decade was the most serious one. And I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I think I am more responsible for this, partly for, and a lot of other people who are even more responsible than me, of course. But I was part of that, the destruction of the empire's mythology, and the hope of replacing it with another one, or ours. And again, we're not done yet, but still, it's breaking down. I am more responsible for that than at least 10, maybe 20 MMA types combined, shall we say. And this was one of the first steps that had to be done, and it was an intellectual one. Training yourself doesn't change this.
How much engagement, critical voices get when we're talking about these controversial topics that were extremely controversial 10 years ago. It's a completely different landscape. But here's the thing, here's the brutal, demoralizing truth, is that we can be all as red-pilled as possible. All of the population in all of the West can be super red-pilled and be completely on board with everything. Now, unless we have our guys in these positions of power, then nothing will change. So,
yeah, but we don't even have... I think you're overestimating. Like, again, comes down to how many people are political, and it's like 30% of society is inherently maybe political, and about 3% of the people make these societal changes. It's more about like getting all those people on board and then having an organized vanguard to crush all opposition, because most people are very apathetic. They don't care where the ideology goes, and that's because keeping your head down is just a good evolutionary strategy for all people. So, like, it's not so much about red-pilling everybody, it's about red-pilling a large group of people and then organizing them into a elite that pushes out the other.
So
and that is not done by fighting MMA fights in cage fights, which I do enjoy watching, by the way, but yeah, that's just a piece. You know what that is? That's just a fun piece of white culture that we can enjoy for a moment, internally. And then we have to move on and fight again for like the political cause, which is not done in the streets per se, and sometimes it is. Again, sometimes, rarely, but when it is, again, when there is a fight in the streets, guess who's not there? The people who are like practicing MMA, because they are individuals and they don't want to be tied to political organizations.
The brutal reality, so you can't expect anyone else to do the job for you. And I will say the following: I'm still too controversial to go into politics. had I been able to go into politics, I would have done it. I would have sat through all of these boring political meetings. I would have humbly submitted myself to a lot of extra work. And believe you me, I promise that when the day comes when I can actually do it, when we've pushed the Overton window to the extent where I'm no longer controversial, then I will go into politics. Definitely, I will do so. It's the only reasonable course of action. Until then, I humbly ask all of you sensitive young men to do it. And, you know,